Good evening, friends. Welcome to this weekly live on Facebook by me on a Miraculous Monday. Today's episode is episode number 14. We are already more than halfway through with this episode as the new financial year kicks in, and a couple of new things always are lined up for us, whether we want to believe it or not, that this is our new financial year or this is actually our new year rather than 1st Jan. The 1st Jan surely is the calendar year, but 1st April is the financial year. The professional, the financial, and the year that should matter as the most. Today we are into the 4th day of the year. So, friends, I hope your new year has begun on an auspicious note, courtesy the festivals of Gudi Padwa, Yugadi, and of course the advent of the Chaitra Navratras. So I really wish that this new year turns out to be a good one for you. So let's, without much ado, start today's proceeding. Allow me to share my screen and start. Okay, friends, welcome officially once again to episode number 14 of the 26th episode that we have destined or designed for this financial year, the first half of the year, calendar year, of course, I would say. So today's episode number 14, we are going up to the year number, we are going up to 30th June to complete these 26 episodes. So today is Monday, 4th April, and we begin the proceedings. So as usual, all my presentations will always begin with thank the Lord Almighty. He's given me much more than what I deserve. So this is my brief CV. You all are aware of it by now. So today's episode is about a basic thing, which I would say, with the topic which should be the topmost priority of each one of us: consent. We don't know about these things, but then there are many things which actually go behind the scenes. We have been seeing so many incidents happening in the recent time. In fact, as good as episode number 12, when I discussed about the warranty philosophy, in that also I gave a little bit coverage to the consent part. But exactly, the word consent is a misused one, misunderstood one. We don't have an exact knowledge. So what exactly it is? It is a process. It is not a one-time thing. Remember, consent is a process. Do we have to be fearful? Absolutely, yes. It does not mean that you take out your written text and documents for every patient. There are certain procedures where you will be needing an express consent or verbal consent. But for your detailed procedures, medium ticket procedures, you would be needing a written consent preferably. So why don't dentists take that? Because they always believe that the patient is going to run away. I'm going to touch upon a few of the basics today. Let's see if these things come handy for all of us in today's times. So the word actually is not consent. It is informed consent. So what does informed consent, or what does the word consent include? It should be free. It should be informed. It should be without any coercion or pressure. And should be with free will. With free will. Sorry for the wrong word typed over here. So it has to be without any pressure or coercion. It has to be with a free will, and it has to be informed. Exactly, legally, the consent word means you cannot touch the patient without his or her will. So some people take an implied consent. Some people take a consent for the checkup also, which is a wrong thing. If the patient has walked into through your door, it is already an implied consent. Then many people take the consent on the prescription pad itself. Wrong. What does that mean? That is a blanket consent. I authorize Dr. So and so, Dr. XYZ to do my dental treatment, and I will not withhold him guilty for any of the damage that happens to my tooth or my body. That's it, period. This is not a consent. This is a blanket consent. This is not valid in any code of law all over the world. Of course, we are dealing with the Indian scenario only, so this is not valid anywhere. But unfortunately, the problem is that most of the times this thing is not taught to us. Even I have learned this thing in a very, very hard way. I learned the medical part of it in my 2009-10 PG diploma in medical law and ethics from one of the topmost law schools of India, National Law School of India, University, Bengaluru. As I've already detailed many a times, it is one university which grills you really, really bad, and it doesn't let you pass easily. So whosoever comes out from that university, even it is a distance learning course or a regular course, he's surely gonna be, you can say, understanding the finer nuances of the research specialty or the subject he has done the same in. So National Law School taught me the medical part of the consent. I adapted it to the dental version and then the customized version. So the only thing is, people shudder to think, "Hi, consent बनाने में इतना time लगेगा, सारा दिन क्या करेंगे?" It's not difficult. Hardly it takes me 5 to 7 minutes to take a consent. Hardly, because there are already prefixed templates. You just have to write the top portion, the bottom, the top and the bottom. You usually have a templates for that also. What you find on the internet is just the body of the consent form, and every consent form has to be customized. It is not a prefixed consent form. Usually when I hold workshops or even when I take lectures, the first question I get is, "Sir, please send your consent form." And my answer is, "Sorry sir, I don't have any consent form." "Sir, आप देना नहीं चाहते इसलिए आप बोल रहे हैं." Sir, if you don't want to believe me, it is your choice. You don't want to believe me, it is your choice, surely, because there is nothing called as a fixed consent form. Everything is customized. A patient, two patients having a similar case, even a similar tooth of a root canal may have a different presentation, different medical history. How can the consent form be same? And then on top of that, people spend a lot of time in writing the how of the treatment, which is absolutely not needed and can be covered in just 2 lines. I've been made aware of how this treatment is going to be done. For example, root canal, how root canal is to be done by Dr. ABC, your name, and through the use of various media, digital aids, whatever you do. And all my questions pertaining to same have been answered as per my satisfaction. This covers the how conveniently. Your consent form will never be more than 1.5 to 2 pages. Never. Rare case scenarios. Otherwise, it will never be more than 1.5 to 2 pages. And if the body is excluded, the top and the bottom has to be customized. No patient is going to have the same finding. No two patients are going to have same findings. They're not going to have the same treatment output. They're not going to have the same treatment plan. They're not going to have the same treatment cost. So how can the consent form be same? This thing does not get into many brains. So that is the problem sometimes. Consent literally just means just to ask. So what exactly does it mean further? So disclosure. So information to allow the person to make a decision. The only thing is that you disclose everything that is going to happen to the patient so that he or she can make an informed choice. The problem comes here only. अगर हम बता देंगे कि रूट कनाल में इंस्ट्रूमेंट टूटेगा तो पेशेंट रूट कनाल करवाएगा ही नहीं. अगर हम बोलेंगे कि थर्ड मोलर में आपकी नर्व पैरेसीसिया होगा तो पेशेंट करवाएगा ही नहीं. The question is, if you are not confident of doing these two treatments, and if you feel not the iatrogenic thing, but if you feel these things, two things are going to happen, you separate the instrument every alternate root canal, you have paresthesia problem in every alternate patient, then why are you doing it? This is not only the disclosure, this is an inward journey towards your mirroring also. You have to understand this part. So understand the information. The patient has to understand all the information that is being given by you. That is why consent has to be in the local language. Local does not mean the vernacular. I mean, yes, of course, that is also there. But local language means a simple language used in speech. Anatomical landmarks and all those words are to be avoided. You will say, "Sir, it is not possible to do that." It is surely possible. I am doing it since almost 9 years now, more than 9 years. It is possible. There is a translation for every word. Write the same word, the exact word in the bracket, and the main meaning outside, so that the deciphering of the same meaning is there. Then voluntary. The patient should under be no pressure. Patients ask, "Doctor sahab, treatment chal to jayega na?" They're not worried about the cost part. They're just worried about the longevity part. Oh, चिंता ना करो आंटी, I'm there. I'll do that. मैं बैठा हूं ना. 10-15-20 साल तो कुछ नहीं होता. 10, 15, 20 said in one second. Gosh, 1 year has 365 days, 24 hours. 10 years has 3650 days. कई बार एक मिनट भारी पड़ता, आप 3650 दिन की गारंटी ले रहे हैं. I discussed these parts in the warranty philosophy in episode number 12. Of course, I'm not going to go into that part. Then, of course, it is an agreement. As per the Indian Contract Act 1872, British Time Act, of course, we are covered under the Indian Contract Act as well. So it has to be verbal or written, preferably, to discuss the intervention, what you are going to do. So the patient says, "I agree," and you proceed ahead. There are a lot more parameters in that. Of course, I can't cover all these in the 20-25-minute live. But where does the concept of consent come from? The legal issue, the ethical issue of respect for autonomy. Autonomy means patient's choice, individual integrity, and self-determination. I have been told about all the pros and the cons, and I willingly give my consent for the treatment. That is a one-line answer for the consent, speaking from the patient side. It cannot be, "I am the dentist, I know everything, I can do everything, I can manage the patient. The patient is my old patient, the patient trusts me, so I am going ahead with the consent on behalf of the patient." Sorry, that is wrong. The legal issue says that every patient has the right not to be touched in any way without the patient's authorization. We have to disclose the treatment, the nature of the treatment, risks, benefits, and the alternative treatment options. That is the reason. So, as I said, informed consent is a process rather than an event. It basically makes the patient an equal bargaining partner. Bargaining not in terms of cost, but in terms of weighing the risks. अगर सारा रिस्क आपका ही है, तो जिम्मेवारी भी आपकी है. Just try to understand this. अगर सारा रिस्क आपका है, तो जिम्मेवारी भी आपकी है. If the patient gives the consent, the responsibility is shared. It may be called as a shared decision making as well. Of course, informed consent is basically about autonomy, not exactly, or you can say about the shared decision making in that regard. But yes, the patient has to be fully convinced about the same. The thing is that we are already covered under the Contract Act. The informed consent document just reconfirms or reaffirms that the patient relationship and the doctor relationship is a contractual one. The consent literally only means to agree, but the word is not consent, it is informed consent. So as I said, law says anything obtained by coercion, influence, mistake, fraud will render the agreement invalid. There are 4 separate but correlated elements of consent. What are they? It should be voluntary. The patient should have complete knowledge of all the pros and the cons. Then capacity for decision making. He should not be in an inebriated state. He should not be drunk, should not be under the influence of drugs or anything similar. Then competency. The patient should be above 18 years of age, should be a major and not a minor. If the patient is even, you can say, minor by a day or so, or 2 days or so, the same consent is to be taken by the parents. The parent signs on the behalf, as is the norm in the various, you can say, financial institutions as well. The minor cannot be a competent one in decision making or a signing authority. So to be legally valid consent, all these elements need to be present in the consent part. Yes, no, maybe. So today's topic was consent. What exactly it is? Do we have to be fearful? Why don't dentists take that? So I hope you get a gist of it now. Consent is a process. And trust me, any clinic which is functioning since almost 10 years, let's suppose, will have its share of, you can say, new walk-in patient, but the majority of the patient, I would say 70-75% would be the old walk-in patients or old retentive or old loyal patients. If you have been taking consent before, majority of them already know this, that you are doing it. So there is no issue in that. For the new patient, you already know the system, you just have to convey. Yes, there will be occasional patients who will be wary of signing a document, but that's okay. In any case, you win some, you lose some. You can never treat all the patients walking in through your door. Rather, patients will appreciate that everything has been clarified. It nullifies the wrong expectations on the part of the patient or any false promises. If you promise the moon and you don't reach even the treetop, that thing can be clarified right at the step. The patient walks in with the thought of becoming a Diana Hayden with the veneers on, but turns out to be a Rakhi Sawant. Of course, no disrespect to both the personalities, but turns out to be such. Then you would say, the patient would say, I came in to become this, you made me this. That is where the mismatch occurs. The consent literally means both you and the patient start on the same page before the treatment. Everything should be clear. The way you have to proceed, the total treatment you have to do, the total settings, the total costing, everything should be clear and in black and blue. At least for all the medium ticket and the big ticket cases, all have to be documented. Dentists don't take the consent just because of the fear of losing the patient. Trust me, if one of those patients goes to the court, what do we end up with? We all know. I've discussed this scenario recently only in the warranty philosophy part, episode number 12. Recently, we had a medical legal episode of, you can say, Dr. Archana Sharma. We all know what happened. Unfortunate, but of course, that is part of profession. Doctors, dentists, we are either gods or we are either killers in public size. We are not humans. So you need to understand the difference and nullify the expectations which are there. Not every patient walking through your clinic is going to be your patient. Not every patient you will be treating is going to be happy. So the documentation becomes your savior in that. So carry home gyan is in the form of two or three queries, and one, of course, slide. People ask me this question very, very common. Requirements for a short consent form. Which procedure requires a consent form, as no one are interested in filling the forms? We know the importance of consent form, but I want to know what can be told for them in a simple way, which they think it is a must to fill the form. The number one thing, there is nothing called as a prefabricated, pre-printed consent form. Secondly, there is nothing called as a short consent form. It has to be elaborate, conveniently eliminating the how part and focusing on the rest of the treatment part. Of course, more on the negatives and the positives, more on the pros and the cons, more on the side effects of the treatment. And of course, the findings, the treatment suggested, the treatment plan followed. I'll just give you a very simple example. Somebody walks in without any pain in a lower molar, tells you it has been root canal treated, I want to get a crown from you. Many people would check for the symptoms, ask, no, root canal theek hai, bilkul theek hai. They'll proceed ahead with the crown part. This is one scenario. Second scenario, those who are aware, they will take an X-ray. They should take an X-ray. Everyone should take an X-ray. Take an X-ray, find the root canal to be short, obturation to be short. Still no symptoms, no periapical, may be visible or not, that is a separate thing. If it is a recent one, periapical still would be somewhat visible because the healing takes about 3 to 4 months to appear on the radiograph. So you convey to the patient, sir, ye aapke X-ray mein aapki root canal short hai, it needs to be repeated. Say, doc, I don't have any pain. I came to you for a crown. Please go ahead. And you go ahead. This is second scenario. The third scenario, same situation, you convey the patient, say, sorry, I don't want to do it. If any problem develops, you will be responsible. Doc, your choice. The patient walks away. Now, what to do in these three scenarios? The first thing, you don't take an X-ray, absolutely wrong. If something happens tomorrow, it is going to be blamed on the crown putting dentist only. Number two, the patient says, you report to the patient that yes, the root canal is short. You need to repeat the root canal, and then only I can give the crown. The patient says, doc, I have no pain. Then for the second scenario, the options are two. Number one, scenario 3, I won't do it. Number 2, you put everything in black and blue. Black and blue means written. All the findings were seen. All the X-ray showed improperly filled root canal, which is bound to create a problem. The patient has been warned of the same, and the patient has been told to repeat a root canal, but the patient has chosen to go against it. The patient has chosen to go against our advice and wants to go in for the crown. The patient has been warned that if anything outward happens, it cannot be blamed on the crown. It has to be on the root canal. Get the sign done, proceed with the treatment. In that case, you are at least saved. Of course, ethical, non-ethical, that is one thing separate in this scenario. The problem comes when you don't take a consent in such matters. The patient is going to say, बिना crown के मैं ठीक था, जब से आपने crown दिया मुझे pain हुआ. You haven't done the root canal. You have just placed the crown. I would say you have done a good job. Let's suppose you have done a good job. But now, in this case, where you don't have a consent, or sometimes worse enough, even if you don't have a preoperative X-ray, now you are married to that root canal, which you haven't done also. What will you do? No law can save you. No law can save you. You don't have a preoperative landmark. Let's suppose you have an X-ray. The law says the patient, the doctor was in a dominant position to refuse when he could have easily done that. But he opted against it, which is unethical. So the doctor needs to be punished for the negligence. Unfortunate, but true. Law is against us. Definitely. We have seen it. As I said earlier, doctors are either gods or killers. They are not humans at all. Some people would say, sir, root canal mein kya bole? Separate ho gaya instrument. That is the iatrogenic failure also. Sometimes it just happens. The instrument gets bound in the canal and just breaks, separates. That is not our mistake. That comes in the pros and the cons of the treatment. The iatrogenic failures have to be handled in a different way. You prior inform that this can happen, and by chance, God forbid it, if it happens, you inform the patient, take the services of a specialist, try to bypass or remove. If unsuccessful, give the choice to the patient once again. What do you want to do? Carry on with the same or remove the tooth. But in this case, you have done enough to save your skin, even after separation. But if you take a consent, it can break, and it actually breaks. You don't inform. The patient has pain. The third party, the third dentist tells the patient, then you are negligent. Of course, there are many scenarios which I keep on discussing. Then another query is, some patients, despite of lengthy discussion and signing consent, say they were not completely aware of what's happening. Does that mean something wrong with us? Because most of the times, many dentists actually try to frame the terminology in one or the other way that actually absolves them of all the wrongdoings. Remember, consent form is not a defense against negligence. It is just to save your skin. That you inform the patient of the pros and the cons, and still the patient went ahead with the treatment. There were more cons and less pros. Even if there were less cons and more pros, the patient knew about it. That's fair enough. So save your skin first is the commonest answer. So a consent form needs to cover these 6 parts: the purpose of treatment, the nature of treatment, the likely effects and consequences, risks, limitations, and possible side effects, alternatives and how they compare, and the costs. Whatever you find on the net for a consent form, they'll cover mostly second and third. Maybe a little bit portion of 4. 2.5 out of 6. The rest 3.5 are missing. Risks, limitations, alternatives, comparison, cost, purpose of treatment. All of that is missing in the commonest consent form found on the net. That is why I call them as the body of the consent. The top and the bottom has to be customized. You need to understand. You need to understand these parts very, very clearly. I hope I have put you in the think mode. So you will say, Gyan mat dena. Gyan mat dena. There is an option for that. I'm doing a workshop. I used to do only a consent form workshop earlier, then a record keeping separately. This time I'm doing you can say a combined one. It is going to be a 4-week long workshop from 18th April to 15th May, in which 1 week of pre-workshop homework is necessary, which I'll be giving, of course. And then in the next 3 weeks, you'll have 9 sessions every alternate day plus 1 live query session. All of this is happening on Zoom online and will be from afternoon 2 to 4 p.m. Sometimes get extended to 4:30 or 5, but it'll be there. And those who miss, they can always get the recording. But this is going to be one intensive workshop. I used to do 1 week or 1.5 week long customized consent workshop. So I have tried to merge these two because then people used to say as a recording thing, there were a lot of mentions. So I've combined these. This is actually not 1, but 2 workshops in 1. So the dates are these: Monday 18th April to Sunday 15th May, 1 week homework in the first week for 18th to 24th, and then 9 workshop sessions every alternate day, 2 to 4 p.m., 2 to 4:30, 5 also sometimes, for the next 3 weeks. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then last session on Sunday for queries on 15th of May. All live question answer sessions will be on Zoom. Participants would be in the workshop, you can say closed FB group where this workshop will happen. The support continues there. And of course, the recordings after the workshop for 15 days till 31st May. So my support would be there. So this is not actually 1 workshop, but it is 2 workshops. After a lot of deliberation, I have merged the content and I wanted to do it in an exhaustive way. So last year I did 2. One was the live one was a deferred live. So this is going to be a live workshop. So if you miss this one, I do the next one in September. This is supposed to happen in March. I do the same topic workshop after 6 months. My practice management workshops are in Jan and July, consent in March and September, and finance in May and November. So this is the way I work. 6 workshops in 1 year, every alternate month, but on a different topic. The same workshop now will happen this in September. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope I put you in the think mode. So let's hope you have something to take away from today's session. So I run 2 WhatsApp groups also. These are part of my community. So if you want to be in there, please do send me a message. I limit it to 6 groups only. Then 6 group is currently about to be filled. These are advertisement free groups where only knowledge and knowledge is the aim. So YouTube channel, again, having a lot of free content. As on 31st March, 440 plus videos are already there. So do subscribe to the channel if you have not done already. So do send me your feedback on my phone number, on my group, on my page, wherever you are watching. Bouquets and brick baths both will be welcome in equal. Thank you so much. And I stop my share for question time and acknowledging the visitors on my profile and answering queries if there are any. Hello, Dr. Ramchandra. Hello, Dr. Rajinder Desai. Hello, Dr. SP Singh. Hello, Dr. Vandana. Hello, Dr. Neha. Hello, Dr. Manoj. Any queries, if they are there, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I'm here for 2 minutes. Please feel free to voice your queries or concerns. So friends, we don't need to be afraid of the word consent. We don't need to be afraid of the document. It is not actually that difficult as we think it to be. It's very, very easy. So if you spend some time with me on consent, you'll get to know that actually this is going to be a very, very easy situation. And trust me, it is very difficult to then create a you can say backdated entry of the things that we have done. Lot many times I have been woken up in the night from my WhatsApp group participants. Sir, I am in a problem. I had this notice. I had this problem. And then there are no solutions sometimes because the mistake has been done by the participants themselves. Unfortunate problem is there is no one to guide. And on top of that, even worse is that the participants or the dentist don't want to learn the exact system that is being taught. Once you learn it, once you practice it, it's going to be just a cakewalk. You are going to learn the consent in just 5 to 7 minutes. I mean, make a consent in 5 to 7 minutes. That's it. Dr. Rajinder asks how long we keep the record. The absolute limitation period is 2 years. The relative limitation period is 3 years sometimes, courtesy Milord. Limitation period means whenever you do the treatment, the patient can go to court up to 2 years after the failure or after 2 years after the treatment. But sometimes condonation of delay is allowed. So to be on the safer side, records are supposed to be kept for 3 years to cover up for the limitation period and the condonation of delay. 2 plus 1, 3 years in all. Any more questions? Okay, guys, thank you so much. And I'll see you on Thursday with another episode of Thunder Thursdays this Thursday. Bye-bye. Take care. Have a great week ahead.